Good morning, this is Larry, and I'm coming to you live from Stevie's room. This morning I want to talk about expensive cat surgeries that have worked. I will list them in the description, so in case you're looking at a specific one, you can fast forward my video to that specific topic. These are surgeries that have worked. I'm going to share the cost and what was involved and try and discuss each of them briefly. The first one is called a subtotal colectomy. In this case, the cat was unable to poop. He kept trying and trying and trying and straining and straining and straining, and basically what was happening was the colon was growing bigger and bigger inside him. It's called megacolon. Regular veterinarians didn't know what to do. One suggested taking him to the University of Florida in Gainesville, and I said, no, this is not going to be some veterinary student's guinea pig. I took him to a specialist. They suggested a subtotal colectomy, which is where they remove part of the intestine and sew back the other part. It's a $6,000 surgery, which I paid for. And he lived 10 years post-surgery. He died from something completely different as a much older cat. When he first got out of the surgery, his poop was like a little watery, so you had to keep him in a tile area. It never became perfect, but he didn't die from anything related to the subtotal colectomy. In a human being, when they do a subtotal colectomy, the person has to wear a bag to carry his poop. It's usually something that happens with an older person. With a cat, this was a young cat, a young, big, strong, healthy cat. Putting him down was never an option for me. This was a cat that I saved from the outside that had been shot and beaten. Whether or not those things contributed to him developing this is unknown. It's not something I even took up with the veterinarian. It was really more of a matter of getting him over the finish line, which we were successful in doing. The second surgery, of which I have 2 cats in the house, were orthopedic. In fact, one of them, I show Ozzy in the cage with the cast. Both of these cats were hit on the outside by cars. They were feral cats hit by cars. In fact, I even posted a video of Ozzy's leg that was broken. It was a broken femur, which is your thigh bone. They had to use plates and screws. He needed 45 days in the cage. They were able to take the plates and screws out. The caging is necessary because they don't want him to jump on anything or do anything foolish to injure himself. And even when you let him out of the cage, it's best that he take it easy because he's not completely healed right away. Ozzy by nature is an older cat and doesn't go making leaps and jumps and things. So this actually worked out well for him. The second cat was more serious. The cost of Ozzy was negotiated at $2,000. The second cat is Popo, also a feral outdoor cat that was hit by a car, except Popo's injury, Popo was like almost a kitten, like a juvenile. Popo's surgery was much more intensive. The break in the femur was so high up that they thought they'd have to amputate the leg. And the front leg was, you know how your elbow goes like this back? Well, his was snapped out the other way. They had to pull his arm out and snap it back into place, put that in a cast. They had to do an extremely complicated 4-hour surgery on his leg to try and save the leg, in which they did. My friend who has no cats but has cat experience is the one who rehabilitated Popo. I rehabilitated Ozzy. Popo and Ozzy are now together. Popo is a young cat. As part of his recovery, He was also caged a long time, but Popo, unlike Ozzy, is young and he likes to jump. And there's always that time, especially if my housekeeper's cleaning, that I worry that I live in a 2-story house. That, like, is he going to try and jump off the top step if she's vacuuming? He hasn't hurt himself. He's been pretty good. Perhaps he knows to test his limits and doesn't go testing them. It, you know, Papo's surgery was $5,000. Um, the next surgery is called a PU surgery. This may freak a few guys out. It might even freak out a few women. The cat was unable to urinate. When a male cat can't urinate, it's a medical emergency. Typically, they catheterize him, and that sometimes unblocks him. They put a catheter in, they keep him overnight, sometimes even 2 days, and then they pull the catheter out, and that usually is enough. They change his diet. They give a prescription diet, which I think is more like a moneymaker, but we did it anyway. And it just so happened the cat liked this stuff called SO, but he blocked again. And then he blocked the third time. And the rule is, 3 strikes and you're out. After 3 strikes, now it's a surgery. And the surgery involves removing the organ and creating a hole so he could urinate. He's still a guy. He sadly lost his, he lost something pretty big in his life. And, but he lived 8 years. And that, I think, he was a neutered cat anyway, so I don't think it really affected him emotionally in any way, other than the trauma of having to go to the doctor so many times before we reached the point where it had to be a surgery. His surgery was $3,000. Let me say something about cost. If you bring your cat to a low-cost veterinarian, I think that's wonderful for spay-neuter kind of stuff. Although a spay on a female cat is a full hysterectomy. With a human that does a full hysterectomy, that woman has to go through like weeks of recovery. Cats are generally on their feet. Honestly, I prefer to bring it to my private veterinarians. I know it costs a lot more, but they treat this very meticulously. We are in a hospital setting. You're paying top dollar and you're getting specialists, and you're in a hospital with trained vet techs that are skilled, and all this costs a ton of money. By the way, just so you know, I asked for no donations. I never signed up for YouTube to be monetized. I am financially comfortable. I am not obscenely wealthy, but I measure my expenses with the animals, and I pick and choose what's really, what I don't save money on cats that I can save. I won't spend an exorbitant amount of money when it's unsavable. And there are times where I'm left with a real thought process, because a lot of times what happens is you walk into a veterinarian's office and you've got your heart in your mouth, and you walk into a very carefully crafted bill that they spent months designing to play on your emotions. Read every line on that bill. Question things. Don't be afraid to question some of the things. Try and negotiate with veterinarians a little bit. Some places will negotiate or give you a rescue rate if you're a frequent flyer. Or, don't just walk in there going, please save my dog, please save my cat. they'll go cha-ching, 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 you know. They'll look at you when your cat is dying and say they need to clean his ears, you know, for another $400, if you let them. So there are 3 veterinarians that I greatly trust. Now they're not always available, you know, but I try to make myself available for them. But they sometimes go to seminars. They, you know, but you know, going about doing this, going about doing expensive surgeries that work, involves a lot of work on your part. It is cheaper for me to go to the hospital than my pet. So, and they make it very easy on the person. Let's say a person, I've seen people walk in there that have no money. I mean, they're really, and they get a quote for like $5,000 to save their dog or cat. And they'll say, okay, sign up for care credit, basically, where the veterinarian gets paid, and now this person runs up a debt. And they have to pay a debt to the animal. There is nothing worse than getting hit with a huge care credit bill and a dead dog or cat, which can happen. There are times, and I'm going to tell you, there are times where I've been very upset by a $3,500 bill and a 24-hour later dead cat. That has sparked some talk between myself and veterinary owners as to what happened and why, and you know, and of course they're going to say they did everything they could, and they, you know, but it's, I look at it like a ball player that complains when the pitcher throws a pitch. The umpire's not going to change his call, but he's going to think a little more about the next pitch. So you need to be on your toes going into veterinarians, that if you're dealing with expensive surgeries and you are ready to see if they can work, and they can. Good veterinarians can save lives. You are really paying for their training. There is no way that any one of those cats that I mentioned in my video would be alive today if the cats hit by cars were left on the street, if the cat with megacolon just exploded internally. I mean, so think long, think hard, think wise, be measured. Don't let your emotions get the better end of you, but save the life of your animal if you can. Be well, be safe. Thanks for listening.